Welcome to Firearms of America. Today, as you guys can see, I'm back here at Shooters in Fort Myers, Florida, about to do the review of another Glock. Yes, my favorite. And this is finally, I can't believe I still have not reviewed it, Glock 23 Generation 5. Yes, chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson, 13 capacity magazine, a little bit over 4-inch barrel, like 4.02, yeah, so 4-inch barrel. Let's do some shooting and see what this thing can do. Now today I will be shooting two different kinds of ammo just for a better testing. We have the PMC Bronze 40 Smith & Wesson. This is 165 grain, and I also have Remington UMC. Yes, and this one is 180 grain. So I'll start with the PMC and do some shooting, and you know what? I'll start with I'll go straight into the flappy paddles, because why not make it complicated for myself. Now, if you're not familiar with the Glock magazine, very nice magazines, very easy to load, double stacked. You have orange follower, which is a new fancy addition in a Generation 5 Glocks. Nicely windowed at the back so that you know exactly how many rounds you have in it. And yes, a lot of good fan base for the 40 Smith & Wesson. Just for folks that prefer a little bit more punch, a little bit more power behind the shot over the typical 9mm. Okay, so you know what, that white little circle right here still looks kind of untouched. Let's finish it up with some 40 Smith & Wesson. All right, fairly easy to rack. Standard Glock sides. Yeah, not too shabby. And the white little circle finished up. Okay, so let's start from the very beginning. As usual, we have our new Generation 5 grip on this Glock, which is basically a Generation 4 grip, just without the finger grooves. So if you like the finger grooves like myself, well, no more finger grooves. But the stippling, the aggression is pretty good. You get the same thing going at the back, same thing going on the sides, same thing going at the front. Very consistent, definitely decent amount of aggression. Overall, I do like the ergonomics of the grip from the Generation 5. A little bit of extension here, the beaver tail kind of helps you get your palm right up there. A little bit of a cutout here, right underneath the trigger guard. Again, helps you get that finger all up there so that, you know, better grip, okay? You got the serrations at the front of the trigger guard if you prefer this type of stuff. You guys probably noticed the accessory rail, which is standard Picatinny 1913 accessory rail if you want to put some Surefire X300 or whatever whatever it is you want to put in there. You got a mag release, which is not ambidextrous, but it is reversible. So if you do want to switch it, if you're a lefty, yes, you're gonna appreciate this gun, because it is, well, ambidextrous. With a little bit of effort, it does switches. Now the slide release or slide stop, whatever you prefer calling it, is ambidextrous, so yes, definitely lefty friendly. Mag release works very, very well. It's exactly the same thing as the Generation 4. Nothing really changed if you are familiar with the Generation 4. Now moving further to the slide, we have serrations at the back, serrations at the front. Now overall, the guide rod, the spring in the guide rod here is on the tighter side. It's not as easy to rack as a lot of guns out there, but I have to say, obviously, with 40 Smith & Wesson 4-inch barrel, they did have to implement a little bit of a heavier spring just so that it does a little bit of a better job handling that, recoil from the 40 Smith & Wesson. Kind of makes sense. So, speaking of the 40 Smith & Wesson, let's do some more shooting. Now this time with Remington UMC, and I'll put some 5 rounds, and we'll see if I can hit any of those flappy pedals. I gotta say, I always do terrible with those things, especially with Glocks. Yes, surprisingly, I'm not very accurate with Glock, which is stupid because I've reviewed so many of them. But yeah, just don't do a good job. I'm just terrible Glock shooter in general. Okay, so 5 rounds. Let's do some shooting. Got excited that I hit 2 things and then I missed 3. Okay, one thing that I wanted to mention before we move on further is flared mag well. I mean, it's not crazy flared, but with a little of flaring on the mag well and a little bit of a tapered magazine, you do have a little bit of easier for a faster, makes it for a faster mag changes. Okay, so let's talk about now the trigger. So we have our standard Glock trigger with Glock safe action system, which is this little pre-trigger which serves as a drop safety. One day I'll really drop the gun. But then you have about, let's see, about 3.5 millimeters of very safe, very familiar travel, all right? And then you have a little bit of this, which is about maybe a millimeter, and then a crisp break. That second stage is a little bit of, it takes some time to get used to. Once you get used to though, you're fine, nothing crazy, but it definitely does take a little bit of insecure getting used to on the range. Okay, so let's talk about the sights now. Obviously it's your standard Glock sights, nothing crazy over here. If you're familiar with Glock sights, yes, exactly the same thing, nothing changed. You got your 3-dot, 3-post sights, except at the back there is this white bar going underneath, which the purpose of that is to be different from everybody else. Okay, so let's do some 5 more rounds. I want to do a little better job with the flip pedals. At least 4 out of 5. I'd be satisfied with 4 out of 5. Maybe, but I don't know. Overall though, I have to say, for a 4-inch barrel, the recoil is definitely better, more manageable than I expected it to be. I thought it was going to be a little bit more all over the place, but this is really, really good. But again, that's really because of the guide rod. And one of the things that kind of consistently been changing from generation to generation in Glocks is that guide rod assembly. It's been changing and upgrading and becoming a little bit stiffer, depending on the model of the Glock. Yeah, some might argue that, you know, it's pretty much the same, but if you compare back to back, it does become a little bit stiffer with newer generations, which is good. It helps with the recoil management, but at the same time, you know, if you prefer a little bit of an easier, smoother rack, Okay, all right. So let's do some shooting before I say anything else that is phrasing. Okay. Yes. Yes. No. Come on, man. Concentrate. Why is the 2 I hit and then I miss 3? Like becomes a pattern. Weird. Okay, so a few things that before we finishing up and before I do a final 5 rounds. Disassembly, you got your standard Glock disassembly, basically levers on both sides, which is exactly 1 lever to be specific. It's not 2, it's the same part that extends. All you're doing it, got this thing back, the slide a little bit back, both of them down on both ends, down, and the slide comes out nice and easy. Not as nice and easy as, for example, the newer disassembly on, let's say, 6-hour P320. A little bit easier than this, but still, if you're a beginner gun owner, if this is your first, Glock, knowing how to disassemble a gun and how to maintain a gun is definitely a good skill, something that you definitely need to learn. All right, so 5 more rounds. I'll try to redeem myself on this one. Hopefully I can hit more than 2 out of 5. And then we will try to come up with a more or less reasonable conclusion. Because It's gotta be something reasonable on this channel. I know it's rare, but sometimes it happens. Okay, 5 rounds, flappy pedals. Two out of 5. Okay, the gun's great. I'm a terrible shooter. Glock 23 Generation 5. Gotta say, not much changed obviously from the Generation 4, from Generation 3, Generation 2, Generation 5, Generation 1. But we expect something new coming up in the Generation 6. In fact, I've done a separate video hoping and predicting some good updates in the Generation 6. Check it out. It is on this channel, and let me know in the comments below what you think. Also, let me know in the comments below on this video what you think about the Glock 23 Generation 5. What do you think about this review? If you have any questions or requests for reviews, drop them in the comments below and I will be happy to address them. Thank you very much for watching. Always appreciate your time. God bless you. I'll see you in the next video.